Hey everyone, welcome to Behind the Emerald Veil podcast with Ali and Mandy from Soulstar Energy Collective. We are intuitives, we are healers, and we are spiritual teachers. Um, and we are just like here to bring casual conversation, relatable conversation about all things spiritual.
Yeah, this is what we do. And we're in person today because we missed each other's energy.
Yeah, so we've uh for the longest time we've recorded in person in your basement, and then we all of a sudden started like doing Zoom and doing it so we could have video and put it on YouTube and all of that fun stuff. But then we just kind of noticed like the dynamic, or like we felt like it was like so much better when we're in person together. And so we were like, you know what? Screw it. Let's get back in person and do this. So now, but then it was like, but I like having the video because it's nice for clips and, even YouTube.
Yeah.
So we are trying now. We're sitting together in Mandy's office and trying to do video together.
Yeah.
So we will see how that turns out. The audio, all of it.
And yeah, okay. So normally when we record in person, we're in my crawl space, but it's not very pleasing to the eye.
Yeah, and the lighting is not very pleasing to the eye, so I don't think I want to be like, and I wasn't planning on doing video today, so I'm like totally in my scrubs, which is cool. Yeah.
We're just regular people.
Yeah, just regular moms.
Okay, but we're talking today about corporate.
Yeah.
Because we both work in corporate still, and we have for many years. I mean, I've been in the finance industry in corporate for 20 years. It was 20 years in February.
Yeah.
I know I don't look old enough to be working anywhere for 20 years, but I am. And Ali, how long have you been in corporate? Same amount, probably?
Yeah, probably, because I'm like with my current employer, I'm probably on my 17th year. What? But then I've been in this industry because I've worked for other banks. So yeah, about 20 years, which is, ew, that's crazy.
I know. And when I was younger, if you told me I was going to be a banker, I would have cried.
Oh my God, me too. Well, because my whole family worked in a bank. I'm like not looking at you because I don't want to show my double chin. I'm like looking at you on the camera, so don't think I'm ignoring you.
Okay, I'll do the same. It's hard not to.
It is so hard not to, but I'm like, it's like you can see my eyes doing this. I'm like, I see you, but I'm like, I don't need to have my turkey neck out. So yeah, no, my parents worked their whole career in the bank, and my sister went into it, and I was like, yeah, that's not happening. That is just like so not me. Like, and I was like, I wanted to go into therapy. I was like the creative side, like I love creativity, I love creating, I love communication, I love all of those things. So it was just like not even in my realm, and probably even more so because they all worked in the bank, that I was like, mm-mm. And then, it's hard to figure out what you want to do in school.
Well, it's ridiculous.
It's so ridiculous
that you are expected to know what you want to do for the rest of your life when you're 17 and 18.
Oh, like how do you? And I hated school. So I just remember like I moved out here to the West Coast, and my parents were like, okay, if you're not going to be in college or university, then you need to get a job. And it was like, why don't you walk around to all the banks and give them your resumes? So it's like,
that's what we did in the day, walk around.
I know, we had to get the resumes. And so it was like, it was just kind of like by default. And then you get into it. And then 20 years later, you've made it your career.
Well, to be honest, the bank has given us a lot of opportunity, and there's been so many paths and doorways and things that kept us there. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely. Like the opportunity to grow and expand, and the continued education part of it. Like, absolutely, I have a lot of gratitude for all of that. And even just like learning finance on my own, like, even though my parents were bankers, it was funny that there's still a disconnect when it came to like money and knowing. You would think that they would like teach that to me. And it wasn't really happening until I went to work in a bank and I like learned all these things. And I'm like, everybody should work in a bank, just so they know how stuff works, right? Because a lot of people don't.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, like I have found that, you know, if I've wanted to progress in my career at all, there's always education and opportunities that are like covered for you to continue to grow. So they're definitely appreciative for that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So,
So she may not look like she's been at the bank for 20 years, but she may sound like it.
The reason why we wanted to chat about being in corporate today is because, you know, because we work in corporate, people in our, like our colleagues they know what we do on the side, some of them do.
Mhm.
And so asking questions, trying to understand. So we thought that we would put together this podcast for anybody that's working in corporate and wanting to understand how you can use energy and your understanding of energy within your corporate role. Because most people aren't going to be called to learn about energy and then take it and do like readings or healings or whatever. But what we do, like what the knowledge that we have to share with others, can be used in so many different ways. It doesn't mean that you have to take your skill set to connect to your intuition and read energy to do that for others. You can use it in your corporate jobs. So, which is something that we have both done and something that we have realized we could do better at. So moving forward, we thought we would do a bit of an experiment and maybe do a recap. So we're putting it here now so that we stamp it and then we have to come back and recap it, because we're going to come back in, 6 months or whatever and tell you how it's gone, working with energy in our corporate roles, so that we can see the expansion and the benefit of doing it.
Are we doing that with you too?
Yeah.
Good. Okay.
We have different roles.
Yeah, we have different roles within.
And I've done it in the past with my previous role and it was amazing. But that was just experimenting. As I learned about energy, I started to experiment for myself, how to work with energy, and I was understanding energy, and it was very impactful in my business and like in the business that I was doing, and stuff. But let's talk about like the first thing is, so if you're in corporate and you're like, okay, for me, corporate is a lot of hustle, a lot of climbing the corporate ladder. So a lot of people are good with where they're at, but also there's a huge majority of people that are always wanting to climb the corporate ladder or get to the next pay scale level, by getting a newer role or whatever. So, and that was me. I very much was driven by my income and driven by being successful. I really enjoy being a top of the team, like getting
Top
praise,
performer.
yeah, all that sort of stuff. I was always very driven to do that, but what came with that was a lot of burnout and a lot of frustration and a lot of disappointment, and it was really, really hard to maintain that. So, and I think a lot of people are going through that at the moment where they're like, I can't do the hustle anymore, or I don't want to do the hustle. Corporate burnout is a huge thing, all those sorts of things. So incorporating energy work and your understanding of frequency and energy into your job in the corporate world can be so impactful and so beneficial, and also help you kind of release some of that hustle energy that is very toxic in a sense. And, because that can manifest into your body as discomfort, as illness, as frustration, all that sort of stuff. So where would you want to start if you were talking to a team of corporate members? So where would we start the conversation?
Well, I will back this up a bit, because this kind of like came up because I was asked to speak to my team, because my manager learned about we talked about my business and everything, and I was like sitting there going like, wait a minute, I don't use this. And I really had to sit there and be like, well, why don't I use this? Because I was like, shoot, I'm like, how am I going to talk to the team? And then realize like, oh, Allison hasn't been implementing it herself. And it's, I really kind of sat with that, because I was like, I don't understand why I'm not using these things that I have to help. And it was because in my head, like, it's like I'm in two places. I'm living in two different
Two different
worlds.
worlds.
And corporate, when I'm in corporate, it's like I go into my corporate banking mode. And then when I'm out of there, it's like then I'm at Soulstar Energy, all of those things. And I haven't necessarily bridged, well, I haven't, not necessarily, I have not bridged those things. And so this was kind of like a aha moment to be like, okay, I need to work with the energy, and then do this like experiment to see how it changes everything. So, you know, in this talk of talking to people in corporate that not maybe don't know anything about energy
Mhm.
at all,
Mhm.
and it's kind of like breaking it down to the basics. And you had done a talk with your team
Mhm.
at work, and I loved how you had kind of broke it down to like tangible,
Mhm.
because talking about energy,
Mhm.
atoms,
Yeah.
how that works, you were bringing in
Quantum physics.
yeah, quantum physics, and these things are tangible where people can sit there, because I'm just thinking of the men in on the team.
Well, not even the men, but maybe the women who are in a
Yeah.
very masculine energy.
Yeah, or just not believers
Mhm.
type of thing. And I'm like, oh God, like, you know, you kind of walk into a corporate place that is very tangible,
Mhm.
and you start talking about intangible things. And that can be really hard to,
Grasp.
yeah. And so I loved like how you kind of broke that down, and I am for sure using that. I'm gonna throw out those quantum physics and the physicist and all of those like fancy words, and then they're like, whoa,
You're
she
gonna
knows what she's talking about.
Well,
I'm gonna
basically,
mess up my words. Is that what
yeah,
you're
I was
thinking?
gonna say I'm gonna mess
I
up your
know, I
words.
know.
Practice it.
Yeah, I'm gonna need to practice it because I
I
need
practiced it.
to. Did you?
Oh yeah.
Okay. Well,
Mhm.
and I think like I was thinking of that because it's gotten myself all nervous to have the talk, because I think a big part of us in this work is the one of the hard things in this work is being able to speak confidently, and be in a realm that um, not everybody understands,
Mhm.
wants to understand, and it's open to criticism, and disbelief and questioning, and that's hard.
Mhm.
And so I was like, at first I was like, oh no, I'm just gonna be super chill, right? I'm just gonna be like, hey guys, like, this is what I do, and just be chill and not really think too much into it. But then I was like, no, wait a minute.
It's an opportunity.
It is an opportunity, and I am talking to people that don't know anything about this, potentially, most likely.
Mhm.
I'm like, I need to be able to hone in so that what I'm saying can get through to them and they can understand it, instead of me just being like,
Mhm.
yeah, it's like this and this and this, and they're not in that realm, and I'm speaking as if they know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, I need to slow this down and really kind of go back to basics and talking about, let's just start with energy. Like,
Yeah.
do we all believe that everything is energy? Do we
Yeah.
believe in atoms?
We do.
Right?
That's scientifically proved.
Mm-hmm.
That's known, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and so I felt the same way when I was connecting with my team. My team is much larger than yours because
Mm-hmm.
we're mostly remote.
Yeah.
So everybody's like across the whole province.
Yeah.
Your team is local
Mm-hmm.
and goes into the local branches. So you're more in
Have to do
person.
it face to face.
Mine was definitely over Zoom, but I was presenting to about 55 people.
Mm,
And I was starting to get into my head a little bit. And I was like, oh my God, like 99% of these people are going to be like, what is she talking about?
like,
So
what's wrong with
that's
you?
why I prepared and I took some time to like really think about how I can speak about like it generally in a sense, like
Mhm.
energy in general. And then as I started to like allow that fear to come in, I was reminded by spirit that it doesn't matter. I'm not speaking to 55 people. I'm speaking to like
Mm,
5 people. The five
mm,
people that are gonna like that I'm turning the lights on or I'm gonna hit a chord with.
yeah.
Those are the people I'm speaking to. So the other people don't matter because they're not gonna listen to me anyways.
Well, and that part of me was
I
like,
mean, they matter, but they're not gonna listen to me.
yeah, yeah. Well, and it's not to, and I think that's where it's releasing releasing the idea or the grasp, like I know I'm nervous because I could see certain people maybe challenging
Mhm.
me on what I'm saying, or like the skeptic type
Mhm.
of energy challenging, or maybe saying something like, oh, like read me right now, prove to me right now. And I'm like,
But we're not even talking about reading
no.
in these talks, right?
Yeah, and so, but it was like I just it was, and I think where I was kind of coming from was because I wasn't using it. I haven't been using it in my work, and it's kind of like, how am I going to, like my team knows where I'm at if
Mhm.
I get this type of client, all those things. So then what about a bunch of hogwash if it's like, oh, okay, Allison, because you're doing great, aren't you?
Well,
Right?
then you're just going to be honest and say, I haven't actually incorporated this into my business, but this conversation has piqued that interest and a challenge. And now I'm actually going to start working with the energy of
Yeah,
my desk or my clients or whatever it is. But
yeah.
first, before we get into that, let's talk a little bit about like where you're going to start, where we would start. If we were coming in to present to a corporate team, a team of employees or a team of managers,
Mhm,
say in a corporate world, we would break it down to like what first starting with what is energy,
mhm.
right? So really understanding that we're all energy, we're all made up of energy, everything is energy, and that energy here, let me just bring out my notes
Yeah.
because um we all have our own like vibe. So people understand the word vibe,
Vibe,
right?
I'm
So if
vibing.
I was gonna say we all have our own energy, if I say we all have our own vibe, that makes more sense to the majority of people,
Mhm.
right? So we all have our own
Are we
vibe,
vibing? Or are we not
right? And
vibing?
you can tell, like, if you are you vibing with your client? Are you vibing with your team?
Colleague? Yeah.
Are you vibing with your colleague? And so you can feel that tension or that vibe or that, whatever it is, you can sense that.
Mhm,
That's typical.
mhm.
So then we would break it down further and say, okay, so this vibe is created by a bunch of variables, such as our mood and our emotions, right?
Yep.
You go into work, your job, and you're in a crummy mood. That's your vibe. You're in a crummy mood and people know it. Or you go in and you're super bubbly. That's your vibe. People know it. That's your energy. Your energy is vibrating at that frequency. So
Yeah.
then bringing in quantum physics, you understand that your vibe is vibrating and your vibration is made up of a bunch of atoms and particles that are vibrating at their own frequency.
Mhm,
Okay. And then you take it further and you understand that you can measure the frequency of your emotions through what is called hertz.
mhm.
Okay. And thank you to David Hawkins, who was a quantum physicist, mapped out,
There's the big words.
yeah,
Freaking love it.
quantum physicist.
Yeah.
So quantum mechanics and quantum physics will prove this point, right?
Mhm, mhm.
Everything is energy. All energy is made up of particles and atoms and vibrate at a certain frequency. And so your vibe, your frequency is going to be the frequency of your mood,
Yeah.
right? So if you exist in a lower, so he measured the frequency through hertz, and so the lower vibrational energies, your emotions would be like anger, frustration,
Ego,
ego,
like,
like
yeah.
confusion, like all of that sort of stuff. So when you're in a toxic work environment, the majority of the people are complaining about their job, they're unhappy, they're pissed off with management, they're pissed off with the policies or the procedures, or that they're not getting this, not getting that. And I experienced this in my previous role. I was in a role where the majority of my teammates would complain about the lack of things that they would get, or the lack of support that they would get, or the lack of clients that they would get, or the certain type of clients that they would attract were clients that were rate shoppers, or clients that were hard to approve, or clients with shitty credit, or you know what I mean? So they were always attracting the same type of client. So then breaking it down even further to just share like that your frequency that you hold will attract. So you bring in the law of attraction. The frequency that you hold on the majority of the time is going to attract the same type of frequency in a client that you're calling in or
Mhm.
that you're working with. So if you're working with a desk, or so you say you have a desk or a book, we would call it,
Yeah.
that is full of, say, how many clients?
200.
It's 200. So Allie is responsible for working with 200 clients.
Mhm.
They're attached to her desk. So if they have any questions or concerns or issues or needs, they come straight to Allison. Allison is their person.
Yeah, yeah.
So you took over this desk.
Mhm.
So this
Yep.
desk was built based on the vibration of the person that the people that had it previously to you,
Mhm.
right?
Absolutely.
So you've adopted this desk and these clients.
Yep.
And so now you're dealing with, your vibration might be up here, but you're still dealing with maybe
Clients that were not, absolutely, were, so you're coming in, and so maybe the clients that were attracted um to the person that was in charge of that desk was at a certain vibration, and then yeah, you have maybe somebody else come in
Mhm.
and say my vibration's higher. There can be like there's that gap, there's that disconnect of, they're kind of like, you rub me the wrong way and I don't even know why, because we're not even on the same plane, the same vibrational field. And we've talked about that with, when you're going through spiritual awakening and you start to raise your vibration, that friendships, relationships, and things can shift and change or fall away, because you're on different radio frequencies. You're no longer on the same radio frequency, and so there's like this disconnect. And so that's a brilliant thing to bring up in that sense, where yeah, if this book of clients, if these clients were used to a certain frequency, and then somebody else comes in and they're just like, I don't like you. And and I do find like I remember there was those that definitely happened. And that, at the time, if I think back, because I wasn't into all of this, like I was devastated. I was hurt. I took it completely personally, and it was just like, what am I doing? Like, you start to question yourself. But this was a good realization that I literally just had right now on the pod, where I'm like, wait a minute. Wait a minute, my energy just made them uncomfortable.
Well, this is where your energy works. So understanding energy. So having this basic awareness is great. But then what? You know what I mean? Like, sure, we can share this with you. And you can have this basic awareness and start paying attention to your vibration, and trying to raise your vibration. But what are you going to do about it? So that's where it's on. If you truly want to see results or changes in your life, that's where you have to take the responsibility to move forward with the knowledge that you have and shift things and change things as you go forward. Or if you want to move forward, because yes, you can stay in this position where things are really like, they're just are, it is what it
dense
is,
or whatever it is.
yeah.
Yep.
But you also have the power to shift things so that the people that you're working with on a daily basis, aka your clients or the clientele that you're calling in, are people that you truly want to work with. But that will take some time. But over that period of time, you can do the work to understand how to work with energy. And so this is why we love to teach what we teach, because you can take what you learn from us or from any other intuitive that teaches about energy, and take what you learn and then implement it into your corporate job or your small business that you own, or your family, or whatever it is that you would like to help shift. So then now moving forward, knowing what you know, and so Allie doesn't do this now, but she's going to.
Yes, I am.
Like,
You got to keep me accountable, though.
I will.
Accountability buddy.
But you can work with the energy of your desk, like of your book of clients. So you have a book of 200 clients. That is a collective energy, right? So being able to sit in a meditation and pull forward the energy of that collective like that collective book of clients, and sending in whatever energy you need to do, shifting the energy, but also setting the intention to release any of the density that's sitting in there. So those would be the clients that are truly not aligned to your vibration or to your desk, but then also at the same time calling in more aligned clientele.
Yeah.
So then we're going to work on calling in the clientele and releasing the density.
Yeah, that are a vibrational match. And that like completely makes sense in all of that, right? Like, and it's kind of in a way that you're taking your power back. You're not being run or dictated by the client or the desk. You're taking your power back in that sense. And and how you do this, right? Because like okay, that's what I want to do. But how you do this is by recognizing when you're getting into lower frequency conversations or mind loops or whatever it is,
Mhm.
I can think of a ton that I get into
Mhm.
for sure.
Yeah.
And it makes sense that then that energy stays. Because if I can sit there and be like, oh my gosh, I'm like, why is policy like this? Or why is this department like this? And all these things that are out of my control
Yeah.
that can be frustrating, that limit or restrict or make my job harder.
Mhm.
It's so easy to get focused on that.
Mhm.
And I will say I 100% am there most days.
Well, because and that goes back to like anything. So not even just in corporate, but like what can you control? Can you need all you can do is control the controllables. And this is
Mhm.
part of why I was asked to chat about energy with the team that I work on
Yeah.
currently, because there is a lot of change happening. And my manager, thankfully, is very supportive of what we do here at Soulstar, and she under like she sees the benefit in understanding energy and stuff. So she asked me to feel like into the energy of the group. And I
Mhm.
connected to a lot of fear. There was a lot of
Because of
fear because there
all
were
the
all the
change,
changes. It was a fear of the unknown, the fear of the changes, the
the
fear,
asks were
the
being,
yeah, the
yeah.
expectations. Like you can think of the team that I have, we're very administrative. So there's a lot of females on the team, which means that there's also a lot of people pleasers, a lot of
Mhm.
empaths, a lot of sensitive, energetically sensitive beings. Um, and so when you don't have any boundaries, or sorry, when you don't fully understand your own energy, is so easy for it to spread out and for you to feel terrible if like you're afraid to disappoint the people you're working with, right?
Mhm.
So we support people. So if we're not doing a good job, then what are they going to think of
Am
us?
I letting down the person
Then
I'm
going,
supporting?
yeah, going above and beyond because you feel like you need to impress other people or clients or whatever it is. So there was a lot of changes happening for us in a very short period of time, and the expectations were really high. So when I connected to the energy of the collective group, it was very fear-based. So coming in and having a chat about, being able to control the controllables, understanding your frequency, understanding your mindset. So mindset plays a huge role in all of this.
Mhm.
And that is the first, I would say, the first place where you start to shift things for yourself is doing a check-in on your mindset, throughout your day, because it will be multiple times through your day where you feel triggered or you feel anxious
Yeah.
or you feel frustrated. So trying to see, from that perspective of, can I control this? Like, you have a department that's coming back or taking too long. You don't need to hold on to that,
Yeah.
because that's not something that you can control. And
Yeah.
that's where you're going to see the biggest shift the fastest way, I'd say.
Is like letting go of that. I am definitely guilty of that. I will take on other people's panic,
Mhm.
or I will impose what I think that they're going to feel.
Mhm.
And it was funny because like this morning, um, I had I had that opportunity where I had to reply to somebody, and basically it was going to take longer than expected. And I was kind of like, I sit there and I'm like, if anybody was to watch me in an office, my faces will tell you what I'm writing in my email. I feel like people have walked by and they've seen me like smiling, type, 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 smiling. And then they walk by and they see my brows burrowed, and I'm like, so I'm like, my facial expression will say exactly what I'm doing. So my face expression in this one was like,
Mm.
I'm nervous. And then all of a sudden I'm like typing it. I'm like, wait a minute. Wait, no.
Mhm.
It is what it is. Like this is just how it is. And I'm not gonna hold on to this to be like, I'm so sorry, when it literally had nothing to do with me.
Mhm.
What am I saying sorry for? It had nothing to do with me. I didn't do anything wrong. These are just the steps that is
It is
required.
what it is.
Yes.
And you can also take that a step further, and when you have to say no to a client of yours because, in our case, maybe they don't qualify for something that they're wanting, or, in other businesses, it could be that that the answer is just no.
No.
Giving options. Say, I'm really sorry you don't qualify for X. However, you know, if we structure things this way or this way,
Yeah.
and then you put the decision in making back on your client to be like, which one do you choose?
Yeah, so that you're not owning it.
Mhm.
I for sure at times, like I remember this one time that some client was in a panic, and it was like before a long weekend, and there was just this panic of like, I can't get this done, da 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 da, what's going on? And I literally like took that panic,
More.
I wore it, I put it on me. And I ended up, because we were like going to leave for camping that weekend, I ended up making my family wait. And I stayed later and tried to, because I was like, no, this is a panic. She's panicked. I
Mhm.
need to be panicked. And I did all the things, and it was like, it ended up, it couldn't, there's just nothing that
Mhm.
could be done or whatever. And I was, did what I could and left. And I get back on Monday to a complaint. And the client complained that she didn't feel I cared enough or didn't do enough. And I remember sitting there being like, you know what? That's on me. That is on me. I took it
Mhm.
because I was pissed because in
Mhm.
my sense I was like, I worked overtime right before a long weekend. I did this, I did this. Like, how dare you say that about me that I didn't care? And then I was mad at myself for even then doing that,
Yeah, yeah.
sacrificing that for that. So it wasn't even like I was mad at her. I was mad at myself for even doing that. And I realized where I'm like, stop,
Mhm.
stop carrying
Mhm.
other people's shit.
Yeah, and I learned that in the mortgage specialist role pretty not quickly, actually, it took a long time. But it was when I was starting to learn about energy and such. And because there's like deadlines with mortgage
Yeah,
stuff,
yeah,
like
yeah.
there's completion dates, there's lawyer stuff, there's you know, the back end of that process can be very stressful, time consuming, and you know, quick,
Mhm.
especially in a market that is insane when people are, you know, making offers over asking price without any conditions. And you know, you
The
can,
financial impact
yeah,
is huge. Like it's
huge. If
a
I can't get through
yeah,
the proof,
it's
you're
just
screwed.
huge. Yeah.
So there's a huge, I could have carried all of that,
Oh,
that I guess that responsibility that I could have felt, and I did feel for a little while that it was my responsibility to make sure that these clients weren't going to be screwed.
mhm.
But also, like, there was a few times where there was a lot of panic on my client's end for timeframes or whatever. Had I, and I noticed the difference here because there was many times where I held that panic with them, and I did the same thing, and I worked tirelessly
No.
and feverishly to ensure. But I also, in when I was doing that work, I was in that energy of panic, right? So
Mhm.
then yes, things would get resolved, but it was emotionally exhausting to get
Yeah.
through that day. So then what I realized is that I didn't have to hold their panic, but I could
Mhm.
calmly deal with the
Yeah.
issue or the time sensitivity or whatever it was. And what I started to notice is as I shifted that energy, as I worked through it, the client's feedback was beautiful because it was
Mm.
like, thank you so much for taking that on for me. You dealt with it with such calmness and it made me feel so much better. Like
Mm.
it was like I had this confidence that everything was going to be okay and it was going to work out because I knew it would, but
Mhm.
I didn't have to hold their panic. And then it's like this hamster wheel because you're like panicking and they're panicking. And it's like you're just sending it back to each other, like this loop of panic. And it's like that's not doing anybody good. So if you can step out of that loop and hold your own energy and allow them to be their own energy and just hold space for them, but not hold it.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing. That's the energy part of it, the stuff
Hmm.
that we don't see. So even if you are not expressing to your client you're panicked, even if you get on there and you sound cool and collected because you're professional and all of these things, but then you get off the phone and you're like, oh my God, I need to do this and this and this. Like energy has no walls.
Yeah.
So they're picking up on your panic.
Hmm.
So you can hide it as well as you want to, but they are going to still have that energy
Yeah.
of like, they're going to just energetically know that something's off. And like, that's just going to be exchanging back and
Yeah.
forth.
And it's interesting that you say, like, so when you're saying that, I'm thinking like the energy of an email has a huge impact on how it's received too.
Mhm.
And I remember working with a partner like in my previous role, and sometimes she would send an email out and it was very like quick to the point, a little bit like stern sometimes.
Abrupt to the
Abrupt.
point.
And I could sense the energy that she was in when she wrote the email. And I was sure that the client could sense that as well. So there was, I think, one or two instances where I followed up with the client afterwards. I was like on my own, and I was like, hey, just like kind of like smoothed it out a little bit, because I could tell it was very spiky energy in the email.
Mhm.
So even when you're sending an email, so like when you're talking about having to send an email today to somebody and you were worried because that they were going to get upset because things couldn't be completed in the time that was expected, making sure that when you're sending that email, that you're in a good energy too, and that you're
Mhm.
writing it from that space, because we all know that if you're going to write an email when you're pissed, that email is going to come out like that, right?
Mhm.
Or if you're in an energy of panic, they're going to sense that panic. And you can think of it when you receive that email too. Like when you receive an email and you're reading it, you're picking up on the energy of the email, and that's
Mhm.
likely the energy that the recipient or the person that sent it was in. So it goes both ways, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. And it was funny because for some reason, I was in this, higher evolved state this morning when I was responding to these different emails. And I had actually a few of them that I was like, in my head, I was like, this isn't ideal. Um, but for some reason, I must have woken up in a confident mood or whatever. And there was this part of me that was like, it is what it is.
Mhm.
I literally detached from it,
Mhm.
and it is what it is. And I'm just factually telling you
Yeah.
what it is,
Yeah.
instead of me going and being like, so this is what we got. And I'm already
Tiptoeing,
imposing on them,
eggshells.
yeah,
Yeah.
that they're going to be mad. It's like
Mhm.
I'm already there that they're going to be mad.
Mhm.
And both emails came back with like, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Mhm.
Okay, let's do that. And then I was like, what?
Yeah.
Say what?
See, this is how you shift your business, how you shift
Mhm.
your experience in your corporate day. The little things like this, it's the little things throughout your day that you're going to be able to do that. But also, it's really important to take a break, right? Because we can get so micro focused on our tasks and our to-do list to get things done, do. It's really hard sometimes to take a moment to look up and look around. So really making sure that you're incorporating some movement into your day, whether it's getting up from your desk and walking around, or doing like a quick walk on your lunch break, actually taking your lunch break, because how many of us eat our lunch at our desk,
I
right? But that's
know.
really, really important. Also having a good vibe in your office. So in my home office, I don't like, I never practiced this in, the corporate world, because I didn't have an office I was always like jumping from branch to branch
Mhm.
when I worked in the branch for the last 10 years, but now I work at home. So really making sure that you're taking time to have a good energy in your office. Like that's huge. If
Yeah.
your office is cluttery and full of, you know, papers and files and stacks, and it's all unorganized, like that's going to cause that energy to be a little bit chaotic in your business and in your day, and within yourself.
Mhm.
So finding some time to carve out, if that's an office that you're in, to just try to organize, or recycle the things that need to get recycled, or really purging, and finding a different system that works better for you, so that it isn't so cluttery. Because when your space around you is cluttery, then the energy within you can feel cluttery too.
Yeah, yeah. And then I think, with that, like if you have an office and you have different people coming in and out of it, like there's things that you can do to clear that energy,
Mhm.
to neutralize it, to make it neutral. And then, protecting your own energy as well. We've talked a lot about that, where you can protect your energy so that you're just not adopting what everybody else is feeling.
Mhm.
And that's really hard sometimes when you work with a bunch of other people, even over Zoom.
Oh yeah,
Like
huge.
I've gone and done my protection, cleared my energy. I've noticed we've been doing more in-person like meetings with the team I'm on, and I was noticing when I would get downtown, my energy shifted and I'd
Mhm.
start to feel anxious.
Because it's a collective energy of downtown Victoria,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
So
yeah. And I was like, I remember being like, but because I'm so aware of my energy,
Mhm.
I was like, what just happened there? I felt like I crossed a line as I was
Mhm.
driving, and I just became anxious. And after it happening twice, I finally was like, okay, something downtown is creating that. So now when I go, I'm like, I make sure I do a full kind of like clearing and just a protection of my energy and
Mhm.
setting the intention that nothing's going to affect me
Mhm.
down there because I'm sensitive to it.
Mhm.
Um, and so like you can do this for yourself throughout all of it. There was something I was thinking of.
Like working with people in person.
Yeah, well, it was just like, um, because obviously, like, oh yeah, and then like, talking about clearing the space and setting the intention when you have a meeting,
Mhm.
maybe you have something you need to speak at,
Also, like
a
going
difficult
into a
conversation.
presentation.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so like going into a presentation, knowing maybe you're going to have a difficult conversation,
Mhm.
all of the things.
Yeah.
It's like going in and arming yourself
Mhm.
with help and protection and setting the intention of what you are wanting. So in a way, you're clearing the path.
Mhm.
I actually did this weekend, not to do with work, but we Kevin and I are selling our RV. And so we were going to meet up and clear it out. And, I've just been a little bit on the struggle bus with all of that and my healing and journey and all of that. And so I was anxious about it. I was like, oh God, what are we going to talk about? And I'm like, I don't even know because I don't even know how to talk anymore. All of the things. And as I was driving up there, don't worry, I wasn't closing my eyes and doing it. I can literally imagine it all in my mind's eye and
Mhm.
be safe. But I went in and I like grounded my energy. I cleared my energy. I put a protection up. I called in support, so called in Archangel Gabriel because he helps with communication. Because I was like, just give me some
Mhm.
help.
Mhm.
Called in different archangels, called in my guides, and then I just like set the intention. I'm like, spirit, please go forward and just clear the path
Mhm.
and just make it that it's just smooth. I'm not leaving, having a whole bunch of other stuff that I can sit there and cry about because, somebody says something and then I'm like, what do you mean by that? And then I like go home and just think about it in a loop. And I'm like, please just make this like clear, calm. And it was so beautiful
Mhm.
because I left and I was like, I actually even felt better. It wasn't, I was expecting that I would have a whole bunch of other stuff that I'd be like, what did he mean by that? And what does this mean? And to cry about.
Yeah.
And I left being like, okay, I got no extra baggage and I actually felt better.
That's good.
Right. And so, going in and doing this. I had a presentation last week for work that I was nervous about. Did the same thing. And I was like, just bring my words smoothly, literally just let me go out there and be like, and then you're going to walk away and be like, what? Who was that? And
That
that happened.
Yeah, and I did the same when I presented with my team. I went in, before I was to present, I had a 15-minute little window where I was, that was mine to chat. And before the meeting, I cleared the way, I cleared the path. I asked that everybody who was meant to hear the message would listen
Mhm.
and that it would resonate, and that anybody who wasn't meant to hear the message would just kind of tune out or not listen.
Perfect.
And I could see a couple people, they were just like heads down working on something. And I'm like, but I could see some people were very interested in what I was talking about. And then a bunch of them even reached out to me afterwards
Mhm.
separately to chat further about it, which was beautiful because I was meant to, activate something within them.
Yeah.
And that's the beautiful part. And that's why I was able to release the fear of speaking in front of them, was because I knew there was going to be a handful that I was meant to kind of activate something within them.
And
And that's
that's,
the same with you.
yeah.
But
And I guess it's letting go of the ego part of that
mhm,
too. Of being like, what's, who cares?
yeah.
Who cares if somebody's sitting there going like, what an idiot? Who cares? And that's something I know I'm working on, is releasing caring about what other people say, think, or, of me, and being like, fucking cares.
Mhm.
And so, I will say I do wish mine was over
Zoom. Yeah. it
I'm
would be
like,
harder in
I-
person.
Well, yeah.
Your group is smaller.
Well, that's the thing. I think it's worse. I think I would have a better time with a bigger group because I just don't look. I just
Mm.
like, and then on Zoom, I'm so used to that. It's easy just to look at the camera and just talk
Mhm.
and not pay any attention to people's faces or anything like that. Where in person, especially a small group, especially a group that I know everybody,
Mhm.
it's more personal. Where
Mhm.
if I was to walk in and do this with a team of people that I don't know,
Mhm.
it's so much easier for me.
Mhm.
Where when it's people that I know, I'm like
Yeah.
awkward.
Yeah. So what are we gonna do for? I'm changing the subject
Yeah.
now.
Oh my God.
What are we gonna do for you? I guess like our experiment. What is our experiment gonna be for the next couple months?
You know, I'm not good with having to do things.
Well, so I'll keep you accountable.
I know.
You want me to?
I need to.
Do you want me to tell you what we're gonna do?
Yeah, I do. Just like bloody, just tell me what I need to do. I don't want to think about it.
Okay. Well, this is what you can do, and this is what anybody who works for in a corporate role or any type of, job outside of, well, any job, even when you're in spirituality. So we're going to do this for our business too.
Yeah.
But basically, I would say the first step that we're going to do is have you go into the collective energy of your
Book of clients.
your
Yeah.
book of clients, and do a cleansing and a clearing on that energy, and get to know the energy. What does it feel like? Does it feel fear-based? Is it anxious? Is it frustrated? Is it, happy? Is it sensitive? What does the energy of your book of clients feel like?
Mhm,
Right? So then
mhm.
you're going to report back. I want to know. And then you're going to do an energy clearing and healing if there's like an energy in there that is like super frustrated. What are you going to do about that? So you're going to take that a step further. These are things that we teach in like through the whole process of our soul activating journey. Like we do it slowly in a sense so that you can grasp the concept. First, you're going to learn how to pull energy forward, how to read energy, how to understand energy. Then you're going to, in Soul Star Healer, we teach you how to heal energy, how to clear energy, how to like
Move
it
it.
with the, how
Yeah.
to shift the energy.
Transmute it.
And then you have the Akashic records, which you can bring in if you like as another aspect, right?
Absolutely.
If you need to understand things deeper, you can go into the Akashic records and do that if you'd like to. But for you, I think for what you do for corporate, understanding the energy of your book of clients, feeling into the energy and what does it feel like, and then doing a clearing and a healing and an activation if you need to, right?
Yeah.
And then I think from there you'll be able to know how to move forward, because what you're going to want to do, what would be nice, is for you to release some of the density that exists within your book and then call in more aligned clients. But you're going to have to be specific and say, okay, I would like to release 5 clients, but I'd like to call in 10 clients.
Yeah.
And these 10 clients need to be easy to work with, patient, they need to have strong credit, whatever
is kind of like the ideal client.
Yeah, whatever your ideal client is. And so you're going to call in that. So let's talk about it now. So let's say you want to release 3. So let's not have ambitious goals.
It'll be crazy.
For the first time, like let's release 3 clients from your desk and call in 5 clients.
In a month?
And let's say 3 months.
Okay.
In a quarter.
Okay.
In a quarter. And then there's based on your expectations from your corporate role, you're going to want to ask for spirit to bring you maybe in 2 of those reports that you need.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So like based on however you're measured or anything like that, like how that's going to look. And I also think like the other part of that is challenging myself and yourself and all of that to change, because I can set these intentions and be like, I want this, but if I'm not changing my energy and my vibration, that's going to be very difficult for spirit to bring that along.
Yeah.
And I definitely will, for sure. My energy within corporate is different than my energy within Soul Star.
Yeah.
100%. And that is like, okay, I need to take that challenge to be like, okay, you don't need to be in corporate the way that you've always existed, because everybody exists there, and just do it. And I think that's what's happened, is it's just a default. Like it's just the same. And I'm going to really try to, start to incorporate how I am showing up, how I'm feeling, what I am speaking, what I am not getting, dragged into, like getting into one of those, bitch fests. And I love myself a good bitch fest. So, this will be hard sometimes.
Well, wait, I want to say something on that because
Yeah.
you can be like I was in a group chat where it was really just a venting fest,
Mhm.
and that's fine. Like it's fine to be a part of
Yeah.
that. However, maybe not participate as much as you might have in the past. So
Yeah.
like, you don't want to be rude. And you do want to share your own perspective, but you can also
Absolutely.
bring in a different perspective or a higher perspective. But again, you have to be careful because you don't want to be the annoying one that's always like,
Yeah.
that's not reality,
Yeah.
right?
Well, and at the same time, when I was saying that, I realized you also need to feel the feelings.
Yeah.
You're not tricking energy, you're not tricking your vibe if you're like internally like, motherfucker, I am so mad. But then externally, I'm like, it's great. I love it. I love what just happened here. I love this policy. No, you're not fooling nobody. Right. So it's finding that balance of like letting you live and speak your truth and be like, yeah, that's shit. That 100% is shit. But do I need to dwell? I can call it out as shit, but I don't need to dwell in it and tell every person that comes my way how shitty that is. Right. That's when we
Right.
kind of ruminate in that energy,
Yeah.
and that creates.
And that's also when you're spreading it, like, because you can think of it like okay, like you're starting to like mull in this like frustration and this anger, but then you move to your the next office and you start to like vent to that person in
Yeah.
there, and then you're mulling in that, and then you go into the lunchroom and you start to spread your energy in there, and
Your
and now
black cloud.
now everybody's frustrated or picking up on your frustration, and that's how like a toxic environment works, right?
I
So are
know.
you the person spreading the toxicity? Ask yourself this question.
Yes, everybody ask yourself this question. I'm
Mhm.
like, it's huge. And I'm like, I'm for sure 100% um been that person. And then I've also been the person that everybody comes to because it's like I take it on.
Mhm.
And I literally will feel angry for them. And I'll sit there and be like, that's wrong.
Mhm.
That's wrong. And then I'm like, Allison, this isn't your fight to
But that's
fight.
that person brought in their toxic energy and gave it to you. You
Yeah,
know what I mean? So that's also the other aspect, the other side of the coin where like yes, somebody can come in and vent to you
for
and you
sure.
can listen to the venting,
Yeah.
but
Be supportive.
you don't have to hold it for
I
them.
took it every
Yeah.
single time. And I'm like, and I think, and this is where it's like, again, really understanding your energy, really understanding your baseline
Mhm.
to be able to even pick that shit out, like
Yeah.
be able to recognize it. And, once I was able to kind of understand energy and my own energy, I can for sure look back and realize and see
Mhm.
exactly what I was doing.
Mhm.
And because I have that strong justice side, it was like amplified.
Mhm.
And then all of a sudden it would just be like, I'd sit there and be like, that's wrong. And then I'm like, "Rrr." And then I just ruminate in it and nothing's happening because, I'm not going to go fight their battles. Or sometimes I did. Sometimes I'm like, this is wrong and they need a printer. I literally, that was one conversation. And I'm like, and I
They're supposed to do their
how are
job.
they supposed to do? And I had a printer like secretly, and so it wasn't even my fight to fight.
Mhm.
But I was like, took it on, and I was like, this is wrong. This is wrong. And then I went and fought the fight, and it was like, why do you even care, Allison? You have a printer, and I'm like, it doesn't matter. It's
Yeah.
wrong.
Yeah.
And so, but then you realize where I'm like, shit, Al, you don't need to carry that shit.
No,
Right? Like,
no,
come on.
you need to transmute it. You don't need to hold it. And
Yeah.
that's part of like something that we learned earlier on, and something that we're still presented opportunities to experience every day, where somebody will bring you their platter of shit and you can choose to hold it for them, or you can choose to not hold it for them, right?
Yeah, and I think knowing if you are susceptible
Mhm.
to taking on that stuff, then it's like knowledge is power. If you know you're that type of person that does take it on or does get angry, then you know that you should be putting up your guard. You
Mhm.
should be, protecting your energy, being mindful of it, being able to catch yourself when you're like, whoa, wait a minute, you're doing that thing again. Okay, I'm going to just do a quick clearing because, or releasing an energy cord or whatever it is, so I don't have to wear this.
Yeah.
So I think that's another part of the experiment, is that I'm going to really, really try to do all of that.
Yeah, good. And let's talk a little bit about how understanding energy and working with energy as a manager or a team leader
Yeah, yeah,
can be
yeah.
super beneficial.
Mhm.
Before we wrap things up,
Wrap
saw
it
you
up.
looking at your
I know. I
clock.
was like, yep, yep, okay.
Well, let's go into it. Okay. But okay, so let's just say you're listening to this podcast and you're a team leader or a manager or an owner of a business that has a bunch of employees or whatever. So being able to understand like the collective energy again of your team, right? So Allie's going to go in and read the collective energy of her group of clients
Mhm,
to understand where it's at. You can do the same thing for your team.
mhm.
So, I can think of a couple of different teams where you would get different energies from. So, do
Mhm,
you have a
mhm.
team reading the collective energy of your team? You're going to understand where they're at. Are they again frustrated? Are they angry? Are they in a fear-based sense? Are they like, and then you're
Yeah.
going to be able to understand where they're at and then address it from that space and be like, okay, oh my gosh, the majority of this team feels like very frustrated. So now, as a team leader, you're going to want to try to figure out why they're frustrated. What is frustrating you? So we're going to have conversations with people. I sense there's a lot of frustration in the air. What
Mhm,
is happening? What are you frustrated about? Or, however you want to do that. But then you're going to be able to also work with the energy, release some of that frustration on an energetic level and then in a physical level, right? By having those
absolutely.
verbal conversations or those realizations or shifting things physically within the office, or maybe it is taking tasks off people's desks or off their plates, or whatever it is that you need to do to help relieve that frustration. But I guess I would imagine that as a team leader or an owner of a business that has many employees, you would want the energy of your business to be upbeat and happy, because again, going back to energy and understanding the hertz and the frequency of energy, the higher the energy is, that vibration is sitting in like joy, happiness, laughter, love, acceptance, willingness, all that sort of stuff. You want your team to be up there in that higher energy, right?
Mhm,
Because also when that energy is vibrating in that frequency, that is what they're attracting, because you bring in the law of attraction. That's a universal law. Like energy attracts like energy. So if
mhm.
your team is vibrating in this higher frequency, they're going to be attracting higher frequency opportunities, clients, deals, contracts, whatever it is that they're doing it for you in that business. But if your
Mhm,
team is vibrating in that energy of frustration or lack or anger or whatever it is,
mhm.
guess what? They're attracting that type of business for your business.
And that's just going to be a cycle.
Hmm.
And, I would think any owner, manager, team leader, like your role, your job is literally supporting the team. And wouldn't you love to be able to make it easier for yourself? Because really, if your team is happy and thriving, that's making your job even easier. And in a sense, it's like, wouldn't you want to get to the core of it instead of just hitting your head against the wall? That's what it kind of feels like.
Hmm.
If you can't understand it and you just keep coming at it as a certain area or a certain way, and it's like, why are they not? What is happening? Like, and all you're doing is just hitting your head against the wall. They're more frustrated. Where if you can like connect to that and get to the source of it, it's like done.
Hmm.
We figured it out.
Yeah. And I just want to take this one layer deeper, okay? Because we teach people how to read the energy of chakras,
Hmm.
right? So a collective energy has also a chakra system. So when you're reading into the energy of the collective your collective team or whatever, and you're sensing, say that there's frustration, what you can do is take that a step further and read into the chakras. So which chakra is the frustration held in? Is it the throat chakra? Because that's connected to communication, to being authentic, to speaking your truth. If that frustration is held in the throat chakra, that means that your team doesn't feel safe to speak up.
Mhm.
And now what are you going to do about that? But if that throat chakra, or if that frustration is held in the solar plexus is tied to self-worth and self-confidence. So they don't feel confident enough in their role or in their position to be able to do their job well. So understanding,
And if
like,
it's held in the root,
they
they don't feel safe and secure. And there could
or
be,
financially stable.
yeah, or there could be, you know, there's that fear there, or, you know, somebody maybe fears, okay, I'm not making my targets. Am I going to lose my job? Like, you know, all of those things would just like sit there and, you know, ruminate. Is that the word?
Yeah.
Okay. I just keep using it.
Ruminate.
Ruminate. Yeah. So
Fester.
boil. Ew. I like pictured a boil on the skin.
Ew.
Ugh. It's disgusting, Mandy.
That was you.
That was you.
No.
No. So, I love this. You know, I even feel like we should be putting together an on-demand course.
Right?
I
agree.
received that little download as we were talking,
too.
and I was, did you?
I almost said it earlier, but
Yeah, maybe I shouldn't have said it, but that doesn't matter.
out there
Maybe
now
we
and
do a
we don't-
master
we don't
class, maybe
edit.
we do this, maybe we do that, but it feels like there could be some like help in that for people on how to kind of like, yeah, work through the density, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And if you are a team leader or you're a business owner with employees or whatever, and you're like, I don't know how to do this, but I want somebody to do this for me, reach out.
Yeah.
I'm sure we could figure something out because we would love.
Well, come talk.
Yeah, well, we can come talk, but we could also read the energy of your team for you to
Absolutely.
help give you insight as to where it's at.
Yeah.
Right.
But like, yeah, we can definitely like come and do talks and education and stuff, and then also help with the shifting of energy and all of that. So, hey, have us into your Wellness Wednesday meeting and we'll have everybody meditating on the ground. No, don't worry. We won't go that crazy.
we could.
We could though, if you wanted it.
Well, that was a great talk. So we will report back in the summertime as to how Allie's doing with the energy of her corporate job. I don't really know how I can use, I mean, I can use the
I
energy
know.
in
You
mine.
just, it's all on me.
Well, mine is less, I don't have as much responsibility. I'm not client facing like you are.
Well, and I guess it's harder to.
I'll work with the energy of Soulstar.
Yeah, you work with that. And I think it's just harder to gauge.
Yeah, it is.
Where mine, I have this like box of metrics where
Yeah.
it's kind of like, it's black or white.
Yeah.
It's working or it's not.
Yeah. We will look.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll report back.
All right.
That was fun.
Yay.
Okay. Well, thanks for listening.
Bye.
We will see you next week.
Bye.